Hey, Social Psych. So today we're talking about the self and the self concept, and I'll just talk briefly about it. You've got your lecture narrative that you can check out for more details. The self concept, sort of everything that we know about ourselves and how we feel about ourselves, that's what that is. And it's made up of a bunch of different schemas, which are those, whatever the hell they were, right? The cognitive map, I still can't define them. So, But anyway, there are several of these self schemas, multiple selves, more than I talked about in the lecture narrative. There's ones about like sexuality and gender and all kinds of stuff. But in the lecture narrative, I put just a few of them that I thought might be kind of fairly easily understood. And the first one you might have heard about, if you've had anything from Rogers, is the actual self, right? The you that you really are. And it pissed me off that my dad came up with this you that looks out of your eyes. That was really annoying because, he's my dad. But it's actually a really good definition. The working self-concept, kind of the aspect of your self-concept that is activated at any particular moment. Like right now, you're watching this, you're being a student. And then if you were at work, you'd be like being an assistant manager kind of thing. So you might notice sometimes if you're at work and you're being your work self, and then maybe your professor walks in and now it's weird, you don't know who to be, right? There's sort of an indication of your working self-concept. Is this me as an assistant manager or me as a student? It's kind of weird. Role conflict, we might call that. You've got the ideal and the ought self. The ideal self is that you that you want to be, your best self, what you're hoping and dreaming for. And then the ought self is what you should be, right? And the ideal self is internally driven, what I want. And the ought self is externally driven, what other people think you should do, society and that kind of thing. And I talked about self-discrepancy theory, so you'll want to see that. And then there's the expected self, which is what you predict. Like in 5 years, I will be whatever. In 5 years, I will be, presuming I live through this, right? I'll be 59, which is really super weird. I can't even begin to think about that. So that's what I anticipate. It's not what you're hoping for, right? That's the ideal self. But if you're ever in a job interview and they say, where do you think you'll be in 5 years? Don't give the expected self answer. Oh, in 5 years, I guess I'll be working at McDonald's. Don't say that. Even though it's an expected self question, give an ideal self answer. In 5 years, I hope to be managing my own blah, blah, right? So just, a little insider info. And then the feared self, that was the last one that I talked about, and that's kind of the person you don't want to be, right? I don't want to be, like I said, that bitter old woman, yo kids, get off my lawn! I don't want to do that. I want to be, wearing a purple miniskirt and kicking my heels up, and nobody wants to see that, so we're just not going to talk about that. But anyway, so that's the multiple selves. Also part of the self-concept is how you feel about yourself, right? All those multiple selves were like what you know. Self-esteem is how you feel, right? The way you view and evaluate yourself and your strengths and your weaknesses. Nothing really magical about it. I mean, once you get through development, with development, it's an issue, especially for kids. You have to be really super careful with kids. But once you've gone through development, you're an adult, there's not a whole lot that anyone can do to damage your self-esteem unless you let them. Right? You have to give them that permission. Give them that permission to live rent-free in your head, which, maybe not so much. So it's really not that magical. Low self-esteem, I mean, that does kind of suck, right? You see yourself negatively, and you're trying to avoid anything further that's negative, and so you don't try new things, you don't meet new people. Anything that has the potential for rejection, you try to avoid because it could be painful. Now, therapy can really help with this, can help you in a safe place explore new things and find out what you're good at. Because with low self-esteem, you oftentimes don't know what you're good at because you haven't tried. That theme for low self-esteem folks is protection, right? Everything they do is to protect themselves. But high self-esteem, they feel positively about themselves and they want to continue getting better. So not in a jerky kind of way, right? But they're always looking to improve themselves, to better themselves, to grow and to achieve new skills and things like that, because they have that sort of safety net. If you feel positively and confident about yourself, then you can take risks like trying new things or asking someone out. And so high self-esteem, they do tend to have better outcomes, unless It's that unstable, inflated, all that, and a bag of chips self-esteem that is not built on bedrock. That's built on this view of yourself. Everybody's always told you that you're so great. But if you're not great, I mean, if you're living in your parents' basement and you can't find a job and nobody wants to go out with you, and yet you're walking around like, oh, that big old head, right? I got this big old ego. As soon as someone pops that self-esteem bubble and says, yeah, you know, we're not going to hire you, or I don't really want to go out with you, people tend to react with violence and aggression. It's not low self-esteem that's associated with violence and aggressive behavior. It's overly inflated, that bubble self-esteem, that fake self-esteem. You know, the Baumeister stuff about the convicted murderers had far higher self-esteem than the college students. I mean, they even suck at being murderers. They got caught, right? And yet, yeah, I'm all that in a bag of chips. I'm the best in the world. Yeah, and you know, if you've ever run it, it's typically male, but not always male, right? Guy wants to ask you out, and you're just like, yeah, I'm not that interested. We sort of know that if we say no, they might respond violently, and that's true. That's where a lot of that domestic violence happens. Not all of it, but some of it. So it's just something to keep in mind, that high self-esteem isn't always a positive thing, although it is mostly. So anyway, that's a little bit about the self and the self-concept. There's lots more in the lecture narratives, more in the links that I included as well. So hope you're having a good day. We're almost done. I'm getting into May now. Hope the weather's better. It's rainy here. It's April when I'm recording this, so bleh. Anyway, you take good care of yourselves. I'll see you soon.